Disclaimer: this is a work of fiction and is inspired by real historical practices. All characters, events, and supernatural elements are imaginary. On the other hand, Japanese occult horror, rooted in ancient animism, Shinto, Buddhist, and folk rituals, embodies the nation's spiritual traditions.
The Hungry Hearth, by request of the Unbound Reader. Chapter 1, Whispers in the Grain. Keiko first dismissed the whispers as wind through the ancient thatch, but the sounds persisted, not rustling but licking, a wet, insistent cadence against the rafters. Nights deepened into a suffocating silence, broken only by the timbers groaning like burdened joints. Inherited after her husband's landslide death, the farmhouse had always felt watchful, its shadows pooling too thickly in corners. Now, its gaze had weight. Cold spots bloomed on the tatami, lingering like bruises. Hiroki changed subtly. His laughter grew infrequent, replaced by a disturbing stillness. Keiko found him one pre-dawn, kneeling like a supplicant before the Kamidana altar. Not praying, carving. With a blunt kitchen knife, he scraped grooves into the aged pine shelf. Sweat beaded on his brow as he pressed stolen rice grains into the fresh wood cracks with ritual precision. The Ofuda talisman, seal now smeared like a weeping wound, bled rust-colored stains down the shrine's face. When she touched his shoulder, he didn't startle. His eyes, when they met hers, held not light, but the hearth's deep, pulsing ember glow. "It's hungry, Mama," he murmured, his voice layered with a faint, discordant rasp. "Give it stories, old stories, or it'll start tasting other things." Keiko remembered her grandmother's warning, whispered over bitter tea. "Neglect turns gentle Kami to ravenous Onryo. Feed the hearth gratitude, warmth, smoke, whispered thanks, or it learns to feed on you." She'd offered the season's first rice, burned fragrant cedar at solstice, but grief had made her hands clumsy, her offerings hollow. The memory tasted like ash. That night, she heard the whispers coalesce into a single word, hissed from the direction of the cold, dead hearth. Soon. Chapter 2, The Exorcist's Shadow. Priest Sora arrived under a swollen blood moon sky, the air thick and metallic. Unnervingly, no magpies called. The forest held its breath. He was younger than Keiko expected, but his eyes were ancient, scanning the house's low eaves and smoke-blackened beams with grim recognition. His purification tools seemed alien in the oppressive stillness. The Haraguchi wand, thick with sacred shide paper, trembled violently in his grip as he approached the threshold, as if pushing against an invisible current. Salt, flung in sharp arcs, didn't bounce. It clung to the floorboards like frost, emitting faint, pained hisses. Inside, the air grew dense, coated in the cloying scent of wet earth and old copper. Sora began the Engishiki exorcism, his voice a low, resonant drumbeat against the silence. Shadows detached from the walls, coiling like smoke serpents, thickening with each syllable. "Defilement that nests in stone and timber, be sundered by torrent, unmade by sacred flame." He pressed the Haraguchi to Hiroki's brow. The boy's scream wasn't human. It was the sound of roots tearing through bedrock, of green wood splintering under immense pressure, of stone grinding against bone. Hiroki convulsed, his small body arching impossibly backwards, tendons standing out like cables. From the hearth's black maw, a guttural roar answered, the hungry bellow of a starved leviathan. Sora staggered back, face ashen. Aramitama, he breathed, the word heavy with dread. The hearth's wild, untamed soul. Generations of dutiful offerings had nurtured a god. Generations of forgotten gratitude had twisted it into something ravenous. The purification had failed. It had only angered the thing in the stones. Chapter 3. False Snow, Honeyed Rot. For 3 days an eerie, fragile peace descended. The whispers ceased. The cold spots receded. Hiroki chased butterflies in the weak sunlight, his laughter returning, but brittle, like glass about to shatter. Keiko dared to hope. She wept silent tears before the kamidana, offering not wine or rice, but desperate, choked apologies to the silent wood and the stained ofuda. She cleaned the salt scorch from the floor. On the 4th dawn, she woke gagging. The air hung thick with the cloying sweetness of rotting peaches, layered over the acrid tang of burnt hair. Panic seized her. She rushed to the main room. The new Ise Ofuda Sora had nailed above the door lay in splinters on the genkan. In its place hung a crude shimenawa rope, woven not from straw, but from thick strands of dark, matted human hair, still glistening damply. Her own hairbrush, she found later, was empty. Hiroki stood rigidly before the cold hearth. In his small hand, he clutched a fistful of yen coins from her dead husband's hidden savings jar, coins she hadn't touched since his death. One by one, with robotic precision, he dropped them into the ash-filled cavity. Each coin screamed, a tiny metallic shriek like a tortured cricket, as it vanished into the soot, leaving behind a momentary, sizzling orange glow. He turned. His smile was too wide, splitting his face unnaturally. Thin trails of blood, dark as old wine, trickled from his gums and the corners of his eyes. "Better stories, Mama," he rasped, the discordant undertone stronger now. "It likes the sound of metal crying, likes the taste of memory." Chapter 4. The Coin-Mouthed God. Sora returned, but he seemed decades older, hunched, his robes hanging loose. His eyes, sunken and shadowed, held no hope, only grim resolve. As he began the Ohare Grand Purification chant, the air pressure plummeted. Wind howled from within the sealed house, tearing at paper screens. Then came the crack, a sound of the earth splitting. The hearthstone shattered like an egg. Not ash, but coins erupted forth, a torrential cascade of yen, thousands upon thousands gleaming dully. But these were wrong. Each coin bore a tiny, meticulously etched serpent coiling around its edge, and each felt unnaturally warm, almost feverish to the touch. They clattered across the floor, scalding the tatami wherever they landed, leaving behind faint, serpentine scorch marks. Sora's Mamori amulet, a carved jade fox, exploded on his chest, not with fire, but with a burst of freezing black dust that smelled of deep tombs. He collapsed, gasping, blood speckling his lips. "Fool woman," he choked, his voice a ruin. "You bargained, dropped coins into its gullet. You fed the god with greed's metal. Now, you must pay its true price. It owns the boy, and it will collect on the debt." Driven by terror and a mother's guilt, Keiko gathered the cursed coins. They sold easily. Strangers paid far above their worth, their eyes glazed with sudden, inexplicable desire. The money worked sickening miracles. Her mother's deathbed fever broke overnight. The barren rice paddies yielded a freakishly abundant harvest. Neighbors whispered of impossible strokes of luck, touching those Keiko gifted even a single coin. But the farmhouse grew colder. The hearth hummed constantly now, a low, discordant vibration that thrummed in the bones, a distorted rendition of the Yamato no Orochi's dirge, echoing with the screams of drowned villages. Hiroki's brittle laughter vanished, replaced by racking coughs that left thick, granular soot stains on his pillowcase. Visitors admired the gleaming new Ofuda Keiko desperately purchased, its golden script blazing with painful intensity, utterly blind to how its light seared Hiroki's retinas, making him whimper and shield his eyes. One moonless night, the hum coalesced into clear, guttural words, vibrating up through the floorboards into Keiko's very skull. Bring the priest's bones, still warm, from his pyre, or I take the boy's tongue, then his eyes, then his breath. Chapter 5. The Storyteller's Blood. Keiko found Hiroki not by the hearth, but inside it. He had crawled into the soot-filled cavity, curled into a fetal position amidst the still-warm, serpent-etched stones. Only his face was visible, ghost-pale, coated in a fine gray powder. His eyes were open, two black, smoldering coals reflecting no light, only the deep, hungry pulse of the house. "Mama?" The voice was Hiroki's, yet layered beneath it was the grinding of stones and the hiss of burning metal. His breath, when it puffed out, reeked of scorched iron and ozone. "It's my turn. It wants to tell you a story now." He raised a small, grimy hand. Clutched within it was not a coin, but Sora's broken jade fox amulet, now sticky with something dark and viscous. From the shattered hearthstone, 1,000 tiny mouths opened, puckered, coin-sized orifices rimmed with jagged stone teeth. They began to chant, a cacophony of clicks, sighs, and grinding stones weaving together into a terrible, compelling rhythm. Outside, the newest Ofuda, purchased with the last of the cursed coin, blazed above the door like a captured fragment of noon sun, its light casting long, grasping shadows. Inside, huddled in the maw of the hungry hearth, Keiko understood. The stories it craved weren't spoken. They were lived. They were paid for in blood, bone, and sanity. The god didn't want worship. It wanted sustenance. And Hiroki. Hiroki was both its herald and its next meal. The stone mouths opened wider. The chant rose, filling the world. Keiko took a shuddering step forward. The story demanded an ending. She had nothing left to offer but herself. The cold deepened. The chanting grew louder, hungrier. The hearth smiled its 1,000 stony smiles and waited.